Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have from Milford, Marsha Mancuso. And Marsha is a yoga instructor as well as a Reiki practitioner. Welcome, Marsha.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And you know, she's also on the Milford. What's the Milford? What's their online? Do you know what that
Milford
is?
TV.
MilfordTV.com or just Milford TV?
I'm not sure.
Is that how they can see you on that?
Yes, I'm also on YouTube under Marsha Yoga.
And you're going to be on YouTube again.
Yes.
Be my guest.
Yes.
So, Marsha, how did I hear about you? Was it a card that I picked up at one of the stores?
I believe that it was an article that was in 50 Plus Advocates.
Okay. Or was it I wonder if the October issue or September? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not either.
So how long have you been doing yoga and Reiki?
I've been doing yoga for 15 years. I've been teaching for about 9 years now. The Reiki piece just came in slightly before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic I got my certification. So it's been a while. I've been teaching for a little while now.
What got you into it?
Well, I actually began as a cleaning lady for the yoga studio in Millis. At that point I was just separated. I had 2 sons, and someone in town, a woman in town, approached me about cleaning the studio in exchange for a little money and some yoga lessons. And so I did. I could leave the boys while I went early in the morning and did it, so it worked out well for me. Yeah. And at first I just was doing it, half-heartedly, and sometimes not even making that once a week thing. But eventually, over time, I just became more dedicated. And then I, was offered training, and I was able to work towards my training as well. And that's what I did.
And what were you doing before that?
Before that, like before I got into the yoga and everything?
Yeah.
Well, I did raise, the 2 kids.
Yeah.
And eventually my son, older, I had another son. Before that, I did many different jobs. I did some cleaning, but that was usually a side job. When I was younger, I did like administrative assistant and secretarial type of stuff. I did a little bit of selling. I sold advertising for the Milford Daily News back at one point. I've waitressed. I've done so many different jobs. It's hard to even think of this.
I can relate. Oh my God. Did you have parents that basically, my mother basically said, you better do it. Get your bee out of your bonnet, do it. You better do it. Did you have parents that were open to that?
Well, my mother left when I was very young. So, I don't have that experience that you're talking about.
Oh. How old were you when your mom left?
I was 10. Yeah, well, the thing was, we immediately moved at that point from Bellingham up into Nova Scotia, where my parents were from.
That's where my grandfather's family came in from Scotland, I believe.
Well, that's where mine came, right from Scotland into Nova Scotia. And I am actually going tomorrow. I'm going on a solo road trip to Nova Scotia. Tomorrow morning, I'm leaving at 4:30.
What part of Nova Scotia?
Near Woofle, which is the Annapolis Valley, right in the center of the province.
You know Halifax, right?
I know Halifax.
I can't think of it, but my grandfather was born in Nova Scotia, and his father worked for the post office. I think they migrated from either Scotland or Wales, but on my father's side, it's a ton of Scottish.
Yes.
Yeah. You too? Was
yes.
It you? Yeah. So you're going to go alone up to Nova Scotia?
Yes, I am.
Boy, are you brave.
I am.
You're not going to do it all in one day.
No. I'm doing 6 hours, staying the night, going 6 more hours, and then I'll arrive and spend 3 nights, and then do the same coming home, just taking my time, no pressure.
So it's 6 hours, take a break, and then the next day, the other 6 hours. And how long are you going to stay?
3 nights. Yeah, and then travel.
What a way to get away, though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is really
I'm
cool.
looking forward to it.
So, Marsha, you do your yoga and your Reiki both on the television in Milford?
No, the Reiki is something relatively new to me. So I have a couple of clients that I do, one that I do Reiki on, one that I do yoga with, and then some Reiki at the end of the session.
Do you have an office or studio that you
I have a small studio in my house. It's enough for just 1 or 2 people. And I do teach at Milford Senior Center. I have a couple of classes there. I teach for Wayside Counseling in Milford.
Oh, yeah, right up Asylum Street, right?
Yes, Women's Trauma Unit. We went Zoom at the pandemic, and we're still Zoom. So that's very interesting, and I have many different interesting clients through there.
What a
too.
wonderful thing to do it at the senior center. You know, that is terrific.
That's my place. I love it there.
Yeah.
The seniors are wonderful. They've really embraced me there, and I'm very grateful. And recently I added a chair class. I knew there was a spot for that.
Yeah.
I knew that when I taught subbed in Millis and Medway that they would have both people on mat and chairs, and there were a lot of chair people. So I was thinking, where are the chair people here? So I talked to the director, Sue Clark, about that, and we eventually established this chair class, and that's doing very well. And I still teach 1 day a week down in Millis at the studio where I trained with Kathy Mann.
In Millis, okay.
Yes.
Now, your home office is where you live in Milford.
Yes.
Okay, and you can take 1 or 2 people there.
Yeah.
While we're getting started, how can they reach you, Marsha?
Well, I'm at Marsha Shana Yoga. I have a website, Marsha Shana Yoga, or you can just reach me through email at mmarsha955@gmail.com. My phone number is 508-494-2398.
You know, there's a lot of places that would love to have you come. Have you been contacted, or have you contacted, what do you call it, a hospice, hospitals in general?
You know, I have to say this at this point. So I am, you know, moving into my upper mid-60s there. And so I'm at a kind of place where I'm pretty comfortable with the amount I have. So I wouldn't be inclined to take on a whole lot more.
Yeah.
Because you want to be relaxed doing yoga, and it is a time in my life where I'm approaching it differently than I would have in my 40s or even my 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's very much a manner of keeping things so you're not stressed out.
Yeah.
So every week it's you know, you have to plan. I have to plan the lesson. I have to memorize some of it, and then I have to teach it. And then as soon as it's done, the next week starts. So it's a lot right now just to do that, because you know memory isn't the same as it was at 40s. I mean, so to memorize that. And here's the thing: when I teach, I don't want to just put someone on the mat. I think that's fine if that's what you're looking for. But what I want to do is I always start with Shavasana. I start in a laying down position.
But what if you can't lay flat?
Then on the chair we would be sitting up.
All right.
So you would be, if you were in a regular class, you'd be able to lay down and
Just
get
because I
up.
have vertigo on the left side, so I can put pillows behind my head, but I can't do the other.
I'm
Yeah.
familiar with the vertigo too, because I've
Oh.
had a couple of students, and that's awful. That's a different situation, so you would have to address that personally. Of course, you only do in yoga what is right for you, right? But for me, it's very important to present the philosophy behind yoga. I've learned so much, and I want to share it so much. So when you come into my class, I'm going to have a little lesson that I'm imparting to you. It might be even some information on the science that now backs up a lot of the yoga, right? It might be on the philosophy behind it. You know, there are 8 limbs to yoga. One of them is the postures, but there's 7 other ones.
What's Kundalini? What is that?
Well, that's just a kind of a style of yoga. It refers to the that energy that rests at the root chakra, and
Chakra
then can
things.
rise upright. So the chakras are the energetic body. Yes, I'm teaching about that. That's what I want. I want to bring peace and calm to people. Let me back up on the chakras. The chakras are what we believe is like an energy, right? Energy, and there are 7 wheels of energy along this median, this middle spot. And we believe that there can be blockages in those that we can unblock, with the exception of the root chakra, which holds your ancestral memories. So in other words, if you were a victim of famine or something like that you will retain some of that. You never can completely clear that. Now the yogis have known this for 5,000 years, but recently we know that Holocaust survivors, their DNA is changed, and so is their children's, and so is their grandchildren's.
Isn't that interesting?
So,
Wow.
and let's think about another thing with regard to the energetic thing. What about phantom limb?
Yeah.
How do you explain that? Well, it's easy to explain in yoga because we have that underlying energetic body. This is so important to me. So, you know, if we have a blockage at the throat, then we're having a hard time speaking. Or maybe we're not listening. So there's ways to clear all that out. So I want to bring all that. I want my students to be very calm when they're done at the end. The last 10 minutes are spent either sitting or lying down. And at that point, I go to a guided meditation. So I'm leading them either maybe just relaxing body parts, or maybe going for a walk on the beach or through the rainforest or whatever. And so when they're done, they're calm. Look, we spend all our time in activity.
Some people are too much,
Too much.
Yeah.
We're constantly moving. We need to bring stillness to our life. So it's my goal to bring stillness and peace.
It sounds fantastic. You radiate what you believe in, and it just comes across. I've just met her, and it comes across so well. Again, how can they reach you, Marsha?
Yeah, it's mmarsha955@gmail.com or at 508-494-2398.
If somebody's interested in having you come to their facility, are they welcome to connect with you?
Absolutely, sure.
I know that a few years ago, and I miss it, it was in Shrewsbury at the India Center, and I took a meditation, class with a gal there that she was from the India Center, and I was the only blonde, blue-eyed Anglo-Saxon in the world. But they adopted me like family, and what we had worked for me. It was more of a mental type of thing. You could sit there like this or whatever you wanted, and she would begin by top of your head and take you, relax your tongue, your nose, and take me. One time I went boom, and I thought I'd fallen asleep. She said, "You were in deep," or anything to relax me that much. And it was really fantastic. What is that called that she took us through? What is that? Chanting. We did chanting.
I would say that she was clearing your chakras, but it's hard to say exactly. There are so many different things that go on with it. And that's the wonderful part about it, too. After my first 200-hour training, I understood there were so many other branches, like other pieces, aromatherapy and crystal healing, and just goes on and on, shamanic drumming. I mean, just there's so many things related that are so fascinating.
Yeah. I like it when it appeals to the mind a lot. That helps. That helped me.
That's everything.
I know. I listened to one of her. I had major surgery, and I chose to be awake, and so I listened to. It was actually Indian chanters. Probably people think I'm nuts, but anyway, it worked. And I went through the surgery, and I was just listening to it over and over again, and it worked for me.
Well, nowadays, what you said, it's crazy. Of course, I look at my teacher who was teaching 30 years ago. Everybody just thought people were crazy. I thought people were crazy back then.
Remember when we were growing up? Yoga, Mahash Yoga.
It was like, woohoo! But now we know, because the science backs it up, the chanting and the meditation, when you're hooked up to stuff, it shows. All you have to do is sit in a dark room for 5 minutes with your eyes closed in a quiet room, and your brain will begin to emit alpha waves. Calming and invigorating waves. So, the proof is there, definitely.
If they want to come and see you at the Milford Senior Center, when are you there?
I'm there for chair class on Tuesdays at 10:30. It's a 45-minute class. And Thursdays I'm at 9 for a regular class there.
Why do senior centers always have most things in the morning? People do sleep.
I have 20 people in that class. I have such a fantastic turnout, anywhere from 15 to 20. The chair class is later at 10:30 for that very reason, to allow them to come in. I'm a morning person.
Oh.
I teach only one evening class at 6 o'clock for Wayside, and that is difficult every week. So no, I'm a morning gal. I'm up at 3:30.
What?
Yep.
Why?
I'm out. I do my walk, and I spend a lot of time in my studio just doing my meditation, my yoga, my just, thinking. And
what time do you go to bed, Marsha?
I go to bed about 7 o'clock.
Oh, there you go. And you go right to sleep?
Yes.
All right, well, see, now I'm on the other end of your spectrum. I might go to sleep by 2:30 because I'm reading and doing puzzles. And then if I have nothing planned, which usually I wouldn't be up that late, I can sleep right. Just like I did as a teenager, I still need the same amount of sleep.
That's pretty amazing.
It is.
Sleep is something that kind of evades me. I have a harder time around the full moon, but that took me 40 years to figure that out.
Well, they say you can, if you want to have fun with astrology, but if you were born on the full moon or right at, we're not as affected by. Some people aren't as affected. I was born right at the full moon, so I can't tell if I don't have a problem during the full moon, but I think some people do.
I'm going to check it. Oh, I finally, it's become quite clear for me. It just took me a long, long time because I wasn't looking at that. So the insomnia piece has always been a little bit of a struggle with me, but I embrace that in a sense. So I love the early morning hours. That's when the veil is thinnest.
Oh.
Do you understand? You know, between the spirit world and that's when the veil is thinnest. Yeah. So it's a sacred time for me. When I'm in my studio, it's very, very sacred and beautiful.
What do your kids think about this?
Yeah, my kids are all on board with.
They all think it's great. Have they tried it?
Yeah,
They have.
yeah, and of course my youngest son Mark is the director for my Marsha yoga show. So
Yeah.
he has Down syndrome. He's 24 and he's been cameraman, director, light setup, miking me, all of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
So he's very involved
Yeah.
with my yoga.
Yeah, we were just talking before the show. We both have kids in the same age group. You know, the millennials and how different it is. It's sometimes he doesn't seem to have any sense of time. It's like,
Yes,
whatever.
yes, my son that age is very much that way.
And I was raised, my father, when he was going to pick me up at 6, you better be there.
We were raised in a different time. Things were quite different then. So.
Yeah, I think so. Again, we're talking with Marsha Mancuso, and she is a yoga instructor and a Reiki practitioner. Oh, I said that right. Now tell us about Reiki.
Reiki is simply hands-on healing. So it's basically just using your hands as instruments to kind of heal. Now my teacher, Kathy Mann, is a Reiki person, and so she would do Reiki on me. I went through breast cancer about 11 years ago, 3 surgeries, and through all of that I received Reiki. So of course I also went to my doctors, and I did my surgeries and all that, but I also received Reiki. So I do contribute that to my healing. And I also believe there's a great deal of emotional and mental release when you can handle the head a little bit. So I like to just cradle the head and to just be a hands-on, just bring this, I just want to bring light and joy and healing to the world.
Exactly.
That's it, period.
Reiki, do you do the Reiki at the Milford Senior Center?
No, I don't do it there. Because Reiki, Reiki is not accepted by, the Catholic Church, for one thing.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I didn't either until just recently. But the other churches are fine with that.
Yeah.
So I think because of that, it would make it very difficult.
Isn't that something? I had no clue.
No, I didn't either. I was quite stunned by it, to tell you the truth. But I just, I just do my work. I do whoever wants it.
Exactly. And I know you've got a lot, but boy, I can see by your personality, by the way you come across, that you would be excellent for people in depression, fear, anxiety, and they're all, especially with the COVID having occurred and still out there, it's like people like you are very much needed.
Yeah. Well, it's the chitta, all of the stuff of the mind, the chitta. And we need to control and restrain the mind. You have 60,000 thoughts a day on average.
60,000?
60,000 average a day. And most of those are negative thoughts. Yeah. A lot of them are negative. Most of them you already thought about yesterday. Too.
Yeah.
We need to control and restrain the mind stuff. It's not easy, but I think it's
not.
necessary.
Now, you mentioned you took classes in yoga, and how many hours did you have?
I took 200 hours, which is just the beginning yoga, and then I took 300 more hours, which is therapeutic yoga. So we looked at a lot of different illnesses and disorders and stuff like that. And I learn as I go along, too. Right now I have a woman in my chair class who has Parkinson's.
Oh, yeah.
So when she comes in, she can't very often do the whole thing, so I put a mat and bolsters and pillows, and I make it so she can sit.
Yeah.
And I tell her to just do it in her mind. Just go through it in her mind as we're moving along. And then at the end, again, I just cradle her head for a little while. And
what a fantastic thing. My own grandmother, my paternal grandmother, died with Parkinson's. Now, you're talking back when I was 21. Back then, they weren't doing things that you're doing.
Yeah, that's right.
I bet she might have enjoyed it, too. But she really went downhill. In fact, when we saw her before she died, my parents took me in the hospital, and I walked in the room, and I just kept on going to the next bed. Mom said, Jan, that's your grandmother.
So
that's what it did to her.
It's looks like a really tough disease. My teacher's dad died from it, I know that. This woman, I'm just so happy to be working with her, and she seems to really, really like it.
She taught you with the classes? Or where did you go for your classes?
For the Reiki?
Well, for either one.
My yoga was all done at the yoga studio in Millis. That's the name of it,
Okay.
the yoga studio.
Yeah.
My Reiki was done initially with a woman named Maureen Kayada, and she was in North Attleboro. And after I got Reiki 1 done, everything shut down. So I went online and did a Reiki there, and it was so fantastic. I just loved the teacher, and I ended up doing Reiki 1 over again. I'm getting my attunements, what they call them. They give you ancient symbols to use and all that. And then I did my Reiki 3 there as well. And that was wonderful. And the beauty of that is that you can rewind your things over and over and over to get your classes. And it's so exciting. And it really is my goal to bring this light to the world.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that I thought I might be able to do that was through my writing, because it's one of my few talents that I have. Like, I can write a little. Yeah, journaling, writing. So I started a year ago, August, writing. I love quotes. So I take one quote and then I just reflect on it.
Yeah.
And I started to write a 365-day, and I finished it about a month ago. So now I need to just edit.
Yeah.
And so every Monday on my personal website, I just post a one of them. So it's my way of sharing the light, sharing the yogic philosophy and everything just in bits and pieces.
Yeah. Do people... You must have a lot of responses, don't you? Do they see all this?
I have a core little group that watches, that reads.
And all ages are welcome when you teach this, when you do the senior center or the Milford TV.
Yes.
Can people actually come in and watch you over that studio?
They could if I'm not sure we're going to continue filming Marsha Shana Yoga, only because we kind of stopped at the pandemic. And I kept going because my son wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It was initially all for him, because he this is why we got into it. I didn't audition for that. I never would have got the job. But my son was into photography and videography, and he's a musician. I thought, this is it.
Yeah.
So sometimes he'll play guitar during Shavasana. And it was him that got me into it, and him that I stayed for. After a while, I was getting older, and the camera wasn't flattering, and so I got a co-host to kind of get the camera onto her. And now I'm just at the point where I really don't know if we're going to continue it, but my son is now going to be part of a show that he's doing on his own. I think it's a Man About Town show in Milford. It's just starting.
That's great.
So I'm not sure I'll ever be doing that again, but yes, when we were doing it, people were welcome to come in and watch.
We mentioned some of the illnesses that people have. How does yoga and Reiki help them?
Okay, well, let's take just something not minor, but something like carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yep.
Okay, carpal tunnel syndrome is caused when that tendon that runs down here, it's kind of tunnel shaped, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, when you go to a doctor for carpal tunnel, they're going to look at this area, right? Mm-hmm. When you come to yoga for that, we're going to look at everything. We're going to look at the whole body. So the reason that you get that a lot is because that area is compressed. So we begin to, we're doing the extensions, and we're keeping that space open in the hands. But not only that, what's going on emotionally with you?
Yeah.
Or are you gripping the steering wheel with the death grip?
My mother did that when she drove. And I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, no, yeah.
A lot of people think it's repetitive stuff, but many times it's just that, that where you're frozen in that one place.
Yeah.
And look, we're always at a half thing. We're never fully flexed or fully extended. We're always in the middle. Think about it. Writing, painting, using your keyboard. We are never completely. So when I'm looking at carpal tunnel, I'm looking at a whole bunch of stuff.
What about stomach things like IBS and that stuff?
Yeah, well, of course, and that I haven't gotten into as much, but I would focus on anything that used the belly muscles a lot. And remember, you have the chakra there, that solar plexus chakra, involved in the digestive issues, so you would want to open that chakra up. And a lot of the bending and backwards and twisting, also good for that stuff, because we literally squeeze the internal organs when we twist like a sponge. So we're releasing toxins, releasing old stale emotions.
You know what? You should write a book.
Yeah, and I just did.
You are good. You know your stuff. Again, we're talking with Marsha Mancuso, and she's a yoga instructor, Reiki practitioner. How can they reach you again?
Yeah, it's Marsha, 955@gmail.com, and it's 508-494-2398.
Did you have any idea when you graduated high school that you would be doing this?
No. In fact, I didn't even, I went to work I actually dropped out of high school and later got a GED. I went to work at Milford Shoe. I worked there for a couple years. No, I never envisioned it. When I was in my 30s, late 30s, I went back to school. I had 2 young children. I went to Framingham State 8 years part-time.
You got GED or how did
I
you?
got my psychology, bachelor's in psychology.
Awesome.
As soon as I got out, I planned on no more children, but I was just 42 years old, and I got pregnant with my boy that has the Down syndrome. So when I just never got to use that psychology degree. But you know what? I enjoyed psychology. I like to look at minds, and I like to look what's going on in the mind, and I still do. But these days, I spend more time looking at what's going on in my own head.
In your own.
It's very interesting what's going on in other people's. Well, what's going on in your own head?
Yeah. So you got your degree from Framingham State in psychology.
Yeah.
Then what did you do?
That's it. After that, I think I was out of school 6 months, and I got pregnant with Mark. And then, when I had the Down syndrome son, my life was consumed with that.
Yeah.
So my children are 7 years apart. They're all born on the 14th of the month. December, January, and February.
January and February. Oh, my God.
December, January, and February.
Okay.
And so there was a big distance in between them. When Mark came, he had to go right into early intervention, so there's a lot going on.
Right.
A lot going on. And so I couldn't pursue that, really. And the other thing is that when I went to school in those days, I didn't really understand. Our generation, if you remember, when you got a bachelor's, you were in for a job, right?
Well, that was the thing to do, to go to college. I got there, got bored after 2 years, and said, look, I want to leave.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing my father a favor. You don't have to pay for it anymore. Oh, he was not happy.
No.
You're going to come home and you're going to get a degree in something, and I did.
Well, you remember that if you had a bachelor's, you had a job. That was pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah, no.
But when I got my bachelor's, I couldn't get a job in any kind of a capacity without a master's.
See, I majored in art. What was I going to do with that? I woke up after a couple of years. I went, what am I going to do with this?
Right.
You know?
Right.
I didn't give up the inclination I have as an artist.
No.
But I just knew this isn't going to get me anywhere.
Right.
No. Oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. We got about 3 minutes left. We've been talking with Marsha Mancuso, and she is a yoga instructor and Reiki practitioner, and she's based in Milford. And so if anybody wanted to come to the Senior Center in Milford again, what are the times?
Yeah, that would be for a chair class. It would be 10:30 on Tuesdays, and then the other class is at 9 o'clock on Thursdays.
Okay.
And that's a pretty gentle class, not,
All age groups. Everything.
Seniors, they're all seniors.
Have you ever considered other senior centers?
I'm just at a plate where I'm teaching between privates and classes, maybe like 7 or 8. And so I'm kind of sitting there. If something really good came up and it looked really fascinating, then I would take it on, or if someone really needed the help. Because I always try to focus on service, to some degree with this as
Definitely. Oh, she's a bundle of dynamite. You're the Energizer Bunny. In a way that reaches a person, right? I can't explain it because I get her vibe, but it's been terrific, and it's been great to have you on. We should have you on again.
Anytime.
All right. Thank you, Marsha.
Thank you, Jan, for having me.
You're welcome. We'll see you next time. I'll be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.